Welcome back to Boss Uncaged podcast. Today we have Stefan from the other side of the world. And as you guys know, I like to give everyone that I'm interviewing a particular nickname. And in this case, I'm going to name him the assessment boss because that's what he specializes in. The floor is yours. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and what would you like to talk about today?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. No, my name is Stefan. I'm from the other side of the world. That means from Belgium, Antwerp, to be more specific. That's a city in the north of Belgium. I'm an engineer, has an educational background, and I would like to talk today about the how I created my own software company and developed that to where we are now. So we are like a company of 30 persons and doing indeed a software tool in online assessments. That's a bit for me. I can tell you more about the history later.
So I think that's a good segue. I mean, obviously, I named you the assessment boss for a particular reason, and it was a video I think that was on your Instagram page that Nigel kind of broke down what is the definition of that. So I want you to kind of talk about like the what, the how, and the why, and why did you kind of choose that area of expertise?
Yeah, sure. Like in the beginning of my career, I've been in consulting for over 15 years, quite a long period. First at Pricewaterhouse and became PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then with CSC, Computer Science Corporation. And I always wanted to do something, so to build a company myself, or to build a product and then to build a company around it. And then software was the most obvious choice, given my educational background and also my work experience, because during that time in consulting, I got in touch like quite often with enterprise software, like these bigger software products like SAP and Oracle and the alike. And it was also like the first days of SaaS, software as a service. That means that you can do everything online. It's less difficult to create software when you don't have to buy your servers. So that was a big opportunity, I thought. And then the assessment, I would like to say that it came via a genius master plan, but was more evolutionary, I think. So we started with surveys, in fact, back in 2012, like customer satisfaction surveys and so also some other use cases. So an online survey platform, which was called Survey Anyplace back then. And then, this market was pretty difficult because there's a lot of players. It's almost a commodity product. So we knew that we had to specialize in something, find a niche, but we didn't know exactly what. So we kept on searching. And then finally in 2019, so quite some time after that, we found that an assessment, technically it's not that different than like a questionnaire or like a survey, but an assessment combined with a personalized advice report, that was a niche that was underserved, and our customers were ready to were enthusiastic in the first place, and as a result were also ready to pay for that kind of software. So that's how we found this.
So I think it's definitely interesting. I mean, obviously you said you was trying to figure out and you was niching down. So I want to talk about like the rebranding, because I mean, originally the platform that you're using right now was originally called formerly Survey Anyplace, and then you rebranded it to Pointerpro. So I'm a brand specialist. I want to kind of talk about like why did you switch it, and what was the findings of the reasons why you wanted to rebrand the software in the company?
Yeah, the basic reason was that we wanted to have the word survey out of we wanted to get rid of the word survey in the name, because by the new positioning, the new offering with the assessments and the automatic advice reports, the survey was the less differentiating part of our offering. So it would not be logical to have that in the name. Then everybody would logically compare us with like other survey tools. So that was the main reason. And then Yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did it with a professional agency, like a boutique agency. Not. I mean, not too costly also because you can go quite far in those kind of things. But they helped us really well in yeah, making a long list of names and then a short list, and then we came with Pointerpro because we wanted to have something that is not too much related to the practical tool, but still is somewhat yeah, maybe more abstract, a more abstract link. So what we say now is, yeah, we have a tool to point your audience in the right direction. So by giving the right advice, personalized advice, we point them into the right direction, and I mean, and from there comes the name Pointerpro.
Great. So, I mean, obviously with Pointerpro, I mean, you're doing assessments, but at the same time, I think that platform is underlining more wall-to-wall automation. So I want to talk about like the automation process that your platform.
About advice automation. Yeah, before with the surveys, if you have to say it in 2 words, we did data collection. And now, if you have to say it in 2 words, we do advice automation. So that means that yeah, in order to give good advice, you have first to ask the right questions. Otherwise, you don't have enough information to give targeted advice. So yeah, so the process is like if you, for example, one of our customers or some of our customers are cybersecurity consulting firms, and if you want to have to give advice around cybersecurity, you could ask questions like, do you already have antivirus on all your PCs? Do you already use multi-factor authentication? And a number of these kind of questions. And then at the end, you calculate a score like a maturity level from 1 to 5. For example, if you would have answered that you don't use antivirus, then probably you are in maturity level 0 or 1. And then you can get specific advice based on that maturity level. So of course, someone who is at maturity level 4 or 5 will get different advice as someone who is on maturity level 1. So that's basically the idea to automate the advice via one indeed end-to-end tool, and also our tagline, like ask, assess, advise. So these 3 actions, that is exactly the process that we automate with our tool.
So I'm happy that you closed out that with the ask, assess, and advice. I mean, that's kind of like your hook, and that's like your tagline. So I wanted to talk about that, and there's a duality to it, right? I mean, obviously you guys are using it internally, but you're also using it for your clients. So let's say I'm a brand new client, right? First of all, I want to know, what kind of client am I? Like, who is your ideal avatar? And then what kind of questions do you ask to then assess to then advise?
Yeah, so our ideal client is in professional services, consulting, and it's not linked to one domain. So it can be like the subject matter can be different, like can be legal, can be cybersecurity, can be HR, different kind of things. Yeah. For example, cybersecurity maturity assessment. HR could be like an employee well-being assessment. Yeah, all these kind of things we can make with our tool. And then for the ask, assess, advice, the ideal client, the ideal client already has like a model where they use that model to like automate or partially automate that ask, assess, advice process. Yeah. Let me give you an example. We have, for example, a HR consulting company that already has an employee well-being assessment and a model on how which questions to ask for, like which dimensions within employee well-being and anti-burnout and stuff like that. I mean, all these kind of things are really specialized in that. They already have a series of questions. They have already like also like advice reports, but they are like it's the automation is not yet there. We call it sometimes duct tape IT or duct tape digitization, so that they probably use Google Forms to collect the data, and then they export it to Excel, and they calculate the maturity level in Excel, then they export it to Word, and then they save it to PDF, and then send the PDF by email to a customer. Yeah? All these kind of things. It's not that it's manual, but it's not. It's the use of suboptimal tools, and we call it duct tape digitization. And then, yeah, of course, if transaction volume gets higher and then this duct tape that starts to be difficult, and then they come to us to have a proper SaaS, software as a service tool, to take that to the next level. So that's really the ideal client for us.
So, I mean, with that, do you guys kind of go in and set up like self-service portals, or are you guys actually manually doing like the surveys? Like what does that storyline look like?
Yeah, we don't do any. We just build the software basically, and the software is self-service. So our client can use the software to create their assessments and their reports. Yeah, it's a bit like Microsoft Word, which is used by someone who wants to write a book. Microsoft Word is only the software, but you still have to write a book, of course. You still have to provide the content. That's the same with our software. So so it's our customers that create the assessments and the reports. And then afterwards, they can also send it to the respondents. And the respondents can fill in the assessments, get the reports. And then also the organizer of the assessment can also look at aggregate results. That's the way it's done. So there's two parts to the tool. There's creation of the assessment, that's by the administrator, and then there is the actually taking the assessment, participating in the assessment, and that's done by the respondents.
So I want to talk about you a little bit, right? Because I mean, obviously you're multilingual. You speak Dutch, English, and French. So I want to like talk about you growing up. Like, did you speak all these languages in an early age, or is it something that you kind of picked up as you gotten older?
Yeah, we picked it up, or I picked it up. So we in Belgium we are close to. I mean, there's a Dutch-speaking part in the north and a French-speaking part in the south. Where I was born, it's quite close to the border, or the linguistic border. So yeah, we picked it up, and also at school we had French lessons. Then my parents also sent me to a French holiday, or to a holiday camp where there was only French-speaking kids. So you had no other choice basically, and then speaking French. And then English, English more natural because with movies and TV and everything. Also like during education. A lot of the things are in English, so you pretty. I mean, it's pretty automatic that you all into that. Yeah.
So I mean, since we're time traveling back to you as a kid, I mean, obviously you have a tech background. You're a civil engineer. I want to talk about like what kind of kid were you? Were you like the kid that was taking apart toys? Were you a kid that was an avid reader, or were you a kid that just always wanted to go outside and play with your friends?
Yeah, it's a good question. Outside and play with the friends, and also like bicycling, cycling, and being in the woods. And so yeah, that was certainly something that I like doing. But on the other side, I was also doing some weirder things, also programming in the beginning, like with the ZX Spectrum. That was like one of the first home computers in the 80s, even before the PC, or in parallel with the PC, but the PC was too expensive. So the ZX Spectrum had 48 kilobytes of RAM memory, 48 kilobytes. So it was fun to play with, to play games, but also to program. And then also what I liked doing when I was young was like drawing maps, like geographical maps. I mean, Google Maps and so on, all these things that didn't exist, obviously. So I was that was like one of my passions to create these maps.
So speaking of passion, if I said this statement to you, like hopefully you'll light up, right? So the wind is calling, and I must go. What does that resonate to you?
That's kitesurfing.
Yes. So,
Nice.
I mean, obviously you talked about riding bikes, you talked about going outside, but I want to like, obviously you're a little bit of an adrenaline junkie as well. So I want to talk about like your kite surfing a little bit. Like, how did you even get into that? And does that help you kind of manage some of the stresses that come with being a SaaS platform founder?
Yeah, sure. Kitesurfing came later because it simply didn't exist when I was a kid. But there was windsurfing before. So windsurfing, I did it from my age of 12. But then, then kite surfing came, and we had a lot of windsurfers that switched to kite surfing, and then some of them also stayed like windsurfing. But yeah, indeed, the kite surfing is really an escape. Maybe some others do meditation or other stuff, but I like yeah, sports, and kite surfing is the most extreme, or like most extreme, not that I do so much some like dangerous things or so, but you're really disconnected from the reality when you're on the sea. Yeah, there's only the wind, the water, and the waves, and yourself. I mean, and then the kite is like it's like a part of your body, because you don't have even to look at it to steer it, because you feel it. Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah.
So, I mean, is that, like a lot of times people say they come up with concepts and ideas when they take a shower or when they're driving. Do you think that when you're actually surfing is when you probably get your best creative ideas to kind of help your company grow?
Yeah, some of those certainly, yes. I don't do it like consciously, like I'm now going to go kite surfing and to have some creative ideas. It's not that it happens like that. Creative ideas one thing, and the second thing is like it helps you empty your mind, so that afterwards, I mean, your mind is more yeah, prepared to get these creative ideas. I think like the day-to-day stuff is out when you have done kite surfing.
Cool. So I mean, obviously, like from the family standpoint, right? I mean, you're a father of three, right? And your wife is Caroline. Like, do they go surfing with you as well, or is this
Yeah,
more something that you just do by yourself?
no, they all go surfing. So my wife and the three kids. So I mean, of course, there's not so many days that we go all five on the water together. But yeah, for example, on holiday, we often go to Morocco, because there's a lot of wind and sun, to kite surf, and then yeah, that's nice to be together on the water with your family actually. And in fact, my kids, or even especially my son, is is kiting now much better than me, so that's good that he
Hmm. It's interesting. So I mean, like this go back to like your upraising, right? So obviously you were raised, on the other side of the world in comparison to where we are in America. Do you think that where you are right now is a byproduct of your parents or any ancestors that had the entrepreneurial spirit that inspired you to become who you are?
Yeah, so partially yes. I think maybe not the engineering. My parents were doctor, so I liked very much. I think it's a great profession, but it was not for me. And more than the engineering, maybe the entrepreneurship is something that has always been somehow in the family, and that I also wanted to do or looked up to from an early age. And then yeah, you go in this or you start in this big companies consulting, and then I mean, you're almost in a golden cage, so to say. I mean, it's nice. I mean, I was really happy there with my work and with everything, with my career. But then after a while, yeah, you come to a point that you want to do something by yourself, and then yeah, the best thing is, I think, for me at least, to found a company, a software company.
So, I mean, with that, if you could define yourself and just using 3 to 5 words, what would those three to five words be to define you?
Yeah, like uh, purpose, peace, and passion. Maybe like that's 3 words. Because I want, like, purpose. I want also always to go for the higher objective. Like, think about, like, for the customers, for example, that we have. What do they really want to do with our tool? Like, beside the practical functionality, do they want to grow their business? Do they want to do something else? Also in life, and I like to, yeah, to have something more overarching than just like, for example, with the company, we talk also to democratize professional advice. I know we automate workflows of giving advice and everything. That's all very technical, and you can be more cost efficient with that. And so that's all very good. But like the real better world, which is behind it, is democratizing professional advice by digitizing it. So for example, we have in the US, we have an ex-private banker who use our software to automate financial advice. And yeah, in that way, like when you have to go to private bank, or become clients, you need net assets, I don't know, $1 million or something, like a very high amount. And by digitizing that financial advice, you can also give this kind of advice to people with lower who don't have that much money, so to say, and that's a way to democratize financial advice in this case with our tool. So that's the purpose. And then the peace and the passion. I'm a peaceful person, I think. I'm also quite tolerant, so that's important. And the passion is also like, I mean, I like people that are passionate, that have being generally interested in things. And I think also that we have to, or I try to, to make my employees also being interested in what the customer does, and not only with our tool, but just in the customer in general, genuine interest. I think that's a basis for a long-term relationship. And yeah, I mean, that's always pays back, maybe not immediately, but then after a while, certainly yes.
I think in your last statement, you were talking about like the banker. So that means like obviously your platform is widely used in multiple different industries. So I want to talk about how much does machine to machine learning and AI play into the results that you're delivering to your clients? Because I mean, you're talking about big data and you have to understand that big data. So where do these two mechanisms fall into play?
Yeah, we currently don't have like an AI engine or so directly linked to our tool. So our tool is still like human expertise that is like our customers put their expertise, which is in their head, in our tool, and then have something that can give advice on autopilot without them being needing to be there. So that's already quite powerful. Of course, in AI, I see a couple of possibilities. First is to have a kind of co-pilot, just as Microsoft now has in the newest version of their tools, that you're writing like an assessment, like you're asking the questions, and then the AI is suggesting some other questions or some improvements, and then you're still, I mean, you're still free to apply them or not. Same for the advice report. So both for the questionnaire and for the advice reports, we could have so like a co-pilot which suggests content. And then a step further, because that is pretty, it's not that innovative. I mean, just using like an OpenAI or like another tool to enrich our functionality, it's not that innovative. What would be more innovative is, of course, use our own data set to create our own AI, our own model, to give better suggestions or to improve the content of our customers. Now, that is kind of difficult for two reasons. Like one, we are not 100% free what we can do with the data from our customers. In Europe, it's a bit more regulated than in the US. So that has to be very well defined. And then sometimes we have to ask authorizations to customers to do this kind of AI model training based on their data, basically. That's one. And second is, the amount of data is of course, I mean, we have many customers, but the amount of data is much less than what you find commercially now with ChatGPT, for example, is trained on the data of the internet, all the data which is on the internet, plus a lot of books and other things which are not on the internet also are used to train ChatGPT. So that means that to be better than ChatGPT, that will be quite a challenge. You need a lot of data. You need data in specialized domains that are not yet publicly available. So that's not an easy task. So therefore, I think like application of the existing technologies is certainly a first step that we are going to do to create our own model, and based on our own data, that's more further in the future, I think.
Nice, nice. So, I mean, with that, let's do a hypothetical, right? So, obviously, what you're saying is that a client comes to you, they come to you with data, the data goes through your system, and then your system processes it, and then you create advice from that. So, my question is like the liability of this, say, falsified information being put in, and then obviously the results of that information then giving the wrong advice. Who's going to be held liable, and how do you guys stage that as far as with the content that the clients are giving you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, of course, when the setup is has happened in self-service by the client, and it's not due to like a bug in the system that, for example, there is wrong advice which is delivered by the tool, then yeah, we could then the responsibility or the liabilities is with the client. But in other cases, of course, if we have created the assessment, because we also do that, we also do professional services to create the assessment for the client, or if it's just yeah, programming mistake or like a bug in the system, which is due to us, then of course we are liable, and then yeah, we have different ways to protect us against those cases. We have never had a like a legal dispute or so, but we have yeah, in our terms and conditions there's a liability cap. We have also an insurance here, so insurance to help us when such things would happen, with yeah, providing lawyers and legal assistance, and paying back some of the damage, but that's also capped, of course. So those are some things that we have in place to mitigate that risk.
Nice, very nice. So, I mean, obviously, I think you graduated back in 1995, so you're vastly approaching a 30-year window to where you've been in this field, you've been growing and developing. If there was an opportunity for you to time travel back in the last 28 years and to sit down with yourself for 15 minutes, when would you go back to? What would you say to yourself to help you to get to where you are a lot faster?
I would probably advise my younger self to start like yeah, to start earlier by thinking about creating a company. Perhaps not like creating the company. That is something, it's like with kids or like these kind of things. Or with a job, you have to somehow feel it also. It's not like only by data or so that you can say it. So I would say maybe not create a company earlier, but prepare yourself on or for the creation of the company, by yeah, taking courses or talking to other entrepreneurs or so. I did that to a certain extent, but not really enough. Start creating your network, which you know, independently of in which fields that your company will be in, that network will be useful. So start early enough, because it takes time. Network like people, I mean, that's it takes years and years. So, and it's also, if you would decide to do something else, it's also, it stays useful. There's some skills that you always need, like also writing skills, English speaking, all these kind of things. Yeah, you can invest in those things without knowing what you're going to do, because they are that generic that they always will be useful.
So, like, since we're on the timeline, like during around that same time, and correct me if I'm wrong with my dates, I think in 1999 is when you got married to Caroline, right? So, roughly, you're coming up on the 25-year anniversary, right? She's been with you
Yeah,
the
yeah.
entire ride. How have you managed to, because for entrepreneurs, it's very difficult first to find the right person. Second of all, to be with that person for as long as you have. Like, what kind of work balance do you have in play to make sure that your marriage continues to work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've never had this question on a podcast, but um, yeah, we don't have really a formal system in place or so. I think we are kind of complementary in the sense that, yeah, she maybe it's like a traditional role, like allocation, or do you call it, like she's more like doing things for the kids, for the everything, like also the house and everything, and I'm doing so that I can focus on my job, but she's also very much interested in what I'm doing, and also the kids, and that really helps, because you need that kind of support. On the other hand, I try also to do yeah, things like I like to do, like, for example, doing sports together. You could say, like, if you have separate like hobbies, or like things that you like to do, everybody can do it, or every partner can do it separately, but I don't think, maybe in theory that works, but in practical life it's better to do everything together, and to steer your hobbies a little bit to your partner also. For example, I was yeah, doing some squash with friends earlier in my life, but my wife Caroline did not do that, and then yeah, I preferred, I stopped that, and I went for sports that we can do together, like cycling or kite surfing. So yeah, I think that's simply good, and yeah, you have to feel it somehow. It's different than work, where you have to always have this like you have to have these agreements, and you have to be efficient. It's kind of different, but it has worked, and hope that it still work for a long time in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's phenomenal. I mean, I guess you guys are like a testament to the. I mean, 25 years is a huge mark, and I just want to congratulate you guys on your upcoming 25th.
Thank you.
I want to also talk about, like, you're saying like systems. You're very analytical, but you also have like the adrenaline junkie side to you. So I want to talk about like your morning routines, your morning habits. What do those usually look like for you?
Morning habits: getting up at 7, and then yeah, it's pretty pretty traditional, I think. I have a breakfast, like to eat some fruit, and then only one coffee, and then I bike to work, and that's important, I think, because that's also kind of, it's not the same as kite surfing, but it's also kind of deconnection. Although I sometimes also listen to podcasts on the bike, but it's kind of yeah, de-stressing. You're in the open air. I would not say in the nature, because we are living in Antwerp. It's like an urban environment. But yeah, it's still outside, and I do it also when it's cold, when it's raining and everything. So that's nice. It's half an hour, and then I'm at work like around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, something like that. So that's the morning routine.
So rolling into that, I mean, obviously you're very studious, and you have a civil degree in engineering. So I want to talk about, like, in the past 30 years, is there a book for an up and coming entrepreneur that you read that helped you to become who you are that you would like to recommend?
The Art of the Start from Guy Kawasaki, I think, is a good one. It's already pretty. It's not a recent book, but I think most of the things that are in are still valid. But I remember from that book is that you yeah, have to not make too many plans, but get in action early. It's a bit the lean startup also, I think, worth mentioning. Try to make something that is yeah, small enough that it doesn't take a lot of work, but big enough that you can just, that customers can use it or can make use of it, and give feedback, like the minimum viable product that if a customer starts using it, then you have feedback, and then you can iterate on that. And that's the first important milestone, because if you start working on something and the customer cannot yet use it, then the risk is always high that that no customers will want it, and you have to tackle that risk as early in the process as possible.
I think you brought up a really keen point about minimal viable product. So that always comes to the question about, do we raise equity? Do we bootstrap it? Like, do we just try to handwrite it ourselves? What is your expertise to say that which one is probably the more user-friendly version to go with?
Yeah, which we are bootstrapped ourselves, so I have a slight preference, of course, but I would postpone the moment that you raise equity until it's really needed. And when it's really needed, that means that you're in capital-intensive business. If you, for example, have to build a chemical plant, if you're in that kind of business, then of course you will need to raise capital. But in software business, it's not because of all these software companies raising a lot of money that it's per definition capital intensive, because it's really not, basically. Because of all these technologies like cloud and open source and everything, I mean, the actual development of the software is not that capital intensive, but you need some technical co-founder or some in the team, I think someone technical who can create the first version of your product, in case of a software product. So what is expensive in software is then of course the distribution, the marketing, sales. But there also there's online marketing now. People are, especially in the US, but also in Europe, are not afraid to buy stuff online, to B2B software, like for larger amounts, like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 euro or dollars per year, which is interesting. If that kind of customer pays upfront a yearly license, then it auto finances yourself. Like you can also do the services like we do, services which are also paid upfront to finance your business. Try to find things that can finance your business without giving away equity. Of course, at the moment, when I say wait to the right moment, at the moment that you find a machine, that you hire one sales rep and like it brings in 500,000, for example, per year, and you see that if you hire 5 additional sales reps, that they each will bring in 500,000 per year, and that it will be a continuous thing. Yeah, then of course you need to raise capital. Like another reason to raise capital is when you're in the market and your competitors are investing like hell and have all raised capital, all venture backed. Then potentially you don't really have other choice but also doing that. Now that's not the case in our industry, because our niche is quite small. I mean, it's big enough to earn like our living, but it's small enough that not all the big players are on it.
So, I mean, with that, I mean, obviously there's always multiple sides to a coin, right? So on one side of the coin, you're building a SaaS platform for legacy. You're building a SaaS platform to kind of, like you said, grow and get to where as big as it possibly can. But on the other side, a lot of SaaS founders are building platforms for acquisition. They're just building it to make it viable as possible, put in as many users as possible to kind of just sell the platform. Do you have a preference on those two models?
I would first, I would certainly not sell too early, but you can, I mean, I think in the first phase you don't have to worry about selling, and just try to acquire customers, try to keep them happy, and also try to look at retention, so that you keep those customers. Yeah.
So let's flip that, right? So I mean, just to interject right there. So with the other side of the coin, right? If you have an opportunity to acquire companies, is that something that's probably more interesting to where you are currently right now, like acquiring your competitors if they definitely cover the space?
Yeah, specifically for us, I don't think it's that relevant, because we don't really have like that many direct competitors. but in other cases, it could be relevant. Yeah, I think it could be relevant to have next to your organic growth to also acquire companies. But there again, then you need to raise money because normally with your regular cash flow, you will not be able to acquire companies unless you're already like a very decent size.
Mm, mm. So, I mean, with that, we're talking about acquiring, we're talking about acquisitions. Where ideally would you like to see you and your company 20 years from now?
20 years is difficult, but we say that we do times 5 in 6 years. So that's our business plan, which is not extreme growth, but it's still like between 30 and 35% per year. So not too bad, I think, for self-funded. In 20 years, we would probably be either be sold or be a very large company towards 100 million revenue. Then I would probably not be anymore the CEO because I would be already in my 70s. I would have to fix also this succession. But yeah, we don't think in terms of 20 years, but more like a window of or between 5 and 10 years, I think, because it's more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So with that, I mean, the listeners listening, right, and they're hearing your road and how did you get to where you are and, you know, what your platform does. I want you to kind of talk to that listener and give them some words of inspiration and talk to about, okay, you know, maybe even startup capital. What does that look like to even start a platform? How much should they actually look into interjecting into their own bootstrapping? And what words of insight do you want to leave with them to help them to move forward?
Yeah, I think if you're a subject matter expert in a certain area, be it in finance or even in traditional industries like construction or electrical engineering or so, I mean, you always have to think in your job where things can be made more efficient, like thanks to software which is not yet there, which is maybe suboptimal, and then combine your industry expertise with, if you have it, like technical expertise, but you can also get a co-founder, which I would also advise. A technical co-founder, that's the ideal startup team. I think that you have an industry business experts and then a technical co-founder, and that the team starts working on a software product that solves an issue that industry expert has experienced during his career. Yeah. The advantage also being that, of course, because he has a career in that area, he probably also has a network, and that's good to acquire first customers and to get feedback and these kind of things. And then starts, as I said, like as soon as possible with real MVP, getting into the hands of customers, come out of the building, like they say, talk to potential customers, and then maybe a last thing is because that's also that one mistake that we've made. Don't start too late with customer success. Customer success is talking to your customers and defining what is success for them, and then also following up whether your product delivers that benefits, and if not, you have to do just. I would really advise to have at least 3 times per year, like a formal meeting. I mean, it can be a video meeting, of course, with each of your clients. And of course, if you have many clients, can be quite some work, but it pays back on the long term. And we started too late by doing that.
So with that, I mean, how does someone get in contact with you if they want to test out your software, if they want to send you a message? How do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, for myself, I'm on the social network that I'm most active on is LinkedIn. So please feel free to get in touch or to to send me a message. I'm happy to share experiences with the listeners. And then for the product or the company, it's pointerpro.com. And there you can find information about the product, of course, but also like articles, case studies, and other content around, yeah, really the professional, the digitization of professional services. So also, if you're not ready for the product yet, there is some interesting content there.
Very cool. So I got a couple of bonus questions for you, right? And I think the first one is, would you still be doing what you're doing if money wasn't a part of the equation?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Of course, it's maybe easier said than
Yeah.
than done, but like if I would, of course, money is kind of like a measurement of success, I think. So it's not actually the end goal, but it's yeah, a way that if you don't earn money, if you have like a SaaS product and you don't, the customer is not prepared to pay money for your software, yeah, then there is no value, then you're not creating value. So in a certain sense, it's an automatic link, and you don't have to be have that materialistic view of doing everything for the money. But it's if people don't want to pay or don't want to pay enough for your product, it's a sign that, I mean, you're not delivering value, and that's at in the end the goal, of course.
That's a phenomenal answer. I mean, I'm just analyzing what you said. So I want to flip it back on the other side, right? So if you had an opportunity, right, to spend 24 hours with anyone, and this person could be someone from the past that's dead or someone that's currently alive, someone that you've never met before, who would it be and why?
24 hours, it would probably not be like Bill Gates or Elon Musk or like some of these high shots, but it would rather be like, yeah, someone, for example, from like Odoo, for example. That's another Belgian software company who is 10 times bigger than we. So someone who has done like what I want to do in the coming 5 years. Because I think that I can learn the most from these kind of persons like Elon Musk. He he has done much more, so I will also be nice to sit together with him. But when I look at it from practical point of view, then probably like a lesser profile, but still someone who has realized big things in software, and from who I can learn a lot.
Well, I mean, to give you credit, I mean, obviously you've had a lot of achievements as well. So, you know, obviously you're not going to compare you to Elon, but for you personally, what is your most significant achievement to date?
Yeah, I think it's of course the company, but it's of course a broad answer. It's the fact that we get customers from all over the world automatically, that come to us only for our product and not from me as a person. So that makes it more scalable. And then next to that, it's also like the employees. It's I mean, what really gives me a lot of energy is like both customers and employees give compliments, so we always post it on Slack when there's a comment from or feedback from a customer, and that really gives me energy. And same for employees, like for employees that were saying like it's nice here, like compared to my previous job, it feels more like a family here and stuff like that. I mean, that really makes my day.
So, I mean, you brought up Slack. So, and again, you're into SaaS-based platforms. So, what tools do you use in your company that you would not be able to do what you're doing without having access to those platforms?
Yeah, a lot, of course. We like SaaS products, so Slack, the whole Google suite, then HubSpot for CRM. We use also Intercom. We use Loom to record videos. We also use Gong for sales calls, which is a very interesting one. And then for Curly for billing, we use MailChimp, but probably also going to migrate that to HubSpot. We'd like to use the marketing automation of HubSpot more extensively. So yeah, the dream is like to have really all the customer data in one system, and that will be probably HubSpot, and then to really have the single view of the customer.
Yeah. I mean, I think this was a very interesting and enlightening interview. I mean, like, coming from the founder standpoint of how to build a SaaS platform, and it just kind of goes to your credit of who you are, in addition to being in a marriage that's been working for so long. It's such a great example of a juggling act and how to move forward. So in closing of my podcast, I like to give whoever I'm interviewing opportunity to become the host of my show, and I become your guest. So the Uncaged podcast is now yours, and I'm your guest. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, what drove you to start a podcast, and what do you get out of it?
Multiple different things. I mean, for me, it's an opportunity to speak with individuals like you at scale. We've done close to 400 plus episodes at this point in time, so it gives me like insight to different industries. But at the same time, it's a recorded legacy that lives on. So your kids may have opportunity in a few years or maybe tomorrow to listen to this episode, and maybe their kids will listen to this episode. So it's the same exact thing. It is documenting the processes and the journeys of entrepreneurs, which ideally could help other entrepreneurs down the road.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the medium, the podcast medium, because you can actually listen to it while doing something else, like commuting to work or working out. You do one episode per week, is that it, or do you?
So I record on average somewhere between 3 to 10 episodes per week, and we release one episode, sometimes 2 episodes per week.
Yeah. Okay. No, we were thinking also to launch a podcast somewhere in 2024, I think. I mean, I think it's a very natural way to create content, and you can also extract some of the content and repurpose it, like on social media, or even ask to our copywriters to write a blog post about it, and so on. So that's really interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think it elevates the medium of blogs, right? I mean, it's essentially it's a live, living blog that you can actually get transcripts from as well, but it's so much more rich in the multimedia aspect of it. And to your point, the tentacles go so far and so wide. It's kind of like, why would a business not want to have a podcast should be the question.
And simply faster, like a faster way to create content. If like the interview that we did now, if I would have to write a blog article with all the content that we have now produced in the interview, it would take me like a day or maybe more. That's amazing.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So I definitely appreciate you. I think the audience definitely got some great insight from you. I think you're a phenomenal guest, and I look forward to following you in the scene. What else you're going to do with your platform. So again, from Uncaged and myself, thank you.
Thank you. And looking forward to the publication. Thank you.
Great.